Hey, it's me, Julian Greystoke, and Jane. We're here again today with another monthly wrap-up for you, that being a wrap-up for April. I did one wrap-up before, and it didn't get like a lot of views or anything. It wasn't like the thing, but I'm gonna do a few of them at least and see if they kind of drum up any interest. If they don't, they don't, and then if I don't enjoy doing them, I'll just stop. People are always saying that they like wrap-up videos, and I like wrap-up videos from other creators, so why not keep trying it myself? So with the help of my laptop Candy, we're gonna do my April wrap-up. But first, this. Hey guys, this is the world's fastest reminder that you can support me on Patreon and see all kinds of exclusive videos like these ones. Now back to your regularly scheduled program. We're gonna go on Goodreads and we are gonna find out what I read in April. Well, I say read, it was almost entirely listened to because I listen to audiobooks at work. So that's how I consume most of my books. So I consumed 9 books this month, but at least one of them was a DNF. I think there's maybe 2 DNFs in here, so I don't know how that counts, but there were 9, including DNFs. I don't know if that matters to anyone. It was mostly, once again, following the whims of what is available now on the Overdrive app. I'm kind of low-key addicted to just going on that app and finding something that looks cool and interesting. It's like the ultimate following of my whims, and my whims are also dictated by what is available at any given time. So it's not even like following my whims to something that I previously decided I might like. It's very random. I really should try to get back on track to consuming books that I actually intended to consume and actually have on my Goodreads TBR. And yeah, this month I completely just kind of threw that out the window and just did. This month I think is almost entirely things that I found on the Overdrive app that were available now. And as a result, we started out the month with a DNF. And that was City of Brass by S.A. Chakraborty? I'm so sorry, I can't pronounce that name. I'll put it on the bottom of the screen because I am so white. But anyway, I had heard mixed things about this book, but when it showed up on Overdrive, I was like, well, okay, I'll give it a shot, and I just wasn't into it. I got through the first section with the female lead, and then we had just switched points of view to the male lead, and I was like, I just have no interest in continuing. I did not like the female lead at all. She seemed like such just Mary Sue, just so boring, crabby for the sake of being crabby. She did nothing for me. She seemed like such a cliche. And you guys know, if I'm not into the characters, there's, it has to be a really special book to keep me reading if I'm not into the characters. So I was just like, nope. No, the male character didn't grab me right away either, so no. Alright, here's where it gets super random because, again, literally following the whims of what was available on the internet at any given time. So as a result, I picked up a couple of books by comedians because they were just on the front page of the app, and I was like, okay, I like these comedians well enough. The first one I read was Modern Romance by Aziz Ansari. I think we're supposed to not like him right now. I really don't keep track of what celebrity has done what shitty thing. I think he's done a shitty thing, and I don't know the rules. But I thought his book was okay. I thought it was amusing, and there was just enough meat to it to keep my attention. So I gave it 3 stars. It was basically just a dissection of dating in the age of the internet, essentially. Dating as an adult, how and why relationships lasted in the past versus how and why they last now. Just interesting things. Then I read Food, a Love Did I say that I gave Modern Romance 3 stars? Did I mention that? I gave it 3 stars. Next, I read Food, a Love Story by Jim Gaffigan. I was not really terribly impressed with this. It was basically just his stand-up routines about food rearranged into book form. And I wasn't into it. I found it incredibly boring, and I still gave it 2 stars because I do like his comedy, his stand-up routines about food, but there was like nothing new in this book. There were no new funny bits. I heard it, all of it, already. Then I took a little break from that to read Sherlock Holmes, The Rediscovered Railway Mysteries, and Other Stories. I say read, I mean have them read to me by the silky smooth tones of Benedict Cumberbatch. Yes, I have a huge voice crush and regular crush on that man, and he did a great job narrating these very short stories that were similar to the old Sherlock Holmes stories, but even shorter. And like, the reason I gave it 4 stars was his narration. He might have bumped it up even as much as 2 stars just by being so good at it, because not only did he have his own beautiful voice, but he was also doing all of the voices and accents and everything for all the other characters, and you always get the feeling that Benedict is just having a good time with whatever he's doing, so it just seemed like he was enjoying himself, and I'm like, yep, this please. Unfortunately, I didn't find the actual stories themselves that good. There were a couple that I liked, but the rest were pretty bland. They were so short and so easy to solve that, like, I solved it. The moment the case came up and, like, we got the first, like, hook, I was like, oh, well, this is the answer. Holmes himself barely had anything to do. It wasn't good. The mysteries were not very good. But if you just want to put something on in the background, say you're, like, washing dishes or something, and you just want to hear Benedict's perfect silky voice, and maybe you also like Sherlock Holmes, this is a good one to check out. Next, I listened to Dad is Fat, another Jim Gaffigan, because for some reason, like, a bunch of the comedians' books, like, came up at once on the front page of the Overdrive app. I'm gonna say Overdrive app so many times in this video, you guys are gonna think it's sponsored. I did like Dad is Fat better than Food, a Love Story. I gave it 3 stars, which is average for me, as in a book that just doesn't do anything terribly special, but was still, you know, entertaining enough to listen to. And I mostly gave it 3 stars because it had stuff in it that I hadn't heard in his comedy routines. It was more about being a dad and dealing with his kids, and I related a lot because he has a big family, and I come from a big family, and I related to a lot of the things he was talking about, like, with his family and dealing with all those kids. So it was relatable. I enjoyed it. A lot of it probably was also stolen from his stand-up, but I am more familiar with his older stand-up than, like, what he's doing right now. So I haven't seen, like, his stand-up about his kids very much, so that's probably why I enjoyed it. Next, I read War Horse, which, it was okay. I should have been over the moon with this book, but I only found it to be okay. I gave it 3 stars. I think I have a review planned for this one. I'm not sure. There might be a review coming later, more in-depth thoughts, but overall, it just, I didn't feel like it captured the mind of a horse as well as it could have. If you don't know, this is the story of Joey, who is a beloved horse of a young boy, right when World War I breaks out, and Joey, the horse, is, like, conscripted to go to war because they were still using horses in war at that time for cavalry charges and to pull cannons and stuff like that. So it's basically Joey experiencing the war through the eyes of a horse, but not really. I'll explain it better if I do a review, but I also have a short review on Goodreads if you're interested. Next, I read Winter Witch by Paula Braxton. I've been forgetting to give authors. Have I been forgetting to give authors? War Horse was by Michael Morpurg. I can't pronounce that last name either. Here it is on the screen. Anyway, next I read Winter Witch, which was by Paula Braxton, and I gave it 2 stars. There were many things that I liked about this book, which is why I kept going. I thought about DNFing it, but then I was like, no, the elements that I do like are strong enough to keep me at least reading until the end. And I think I do plan on doing a review of this one, but it was just too long and it just dragged on and on. The pacing was not there. So many needless details were shared, while stuff I was, like, more interested in knowing about were neglected. This is the story of a young woman in Wales. The Welsh setting was a big thing that kept me coming back to it. It's about a young woman in Wales who is a witch, and also she is a mute. She had some kind of trauma when her father left when she was young. That's not hugely explored, I'll be real. That made her go mute. And so she is married off to this Welsh drover, who's a guy who's in charge of taking people's cattle, like taking them far off to market. And it's just sort of them coming to get to know each other, them falling in love with each other, which is an element that I did like. You really do not see very many stories of arranged marriages where the girl actually comes to like the guy that she's married to. There was no, oh, and then she falls in love with the handsome stable hand nonsense. She just eventually fell in love with the guy that she was married to. And of course there's trouble a-brewing in their little village because our main character has some magical ability, and you know how peasants are with magical abilities. No bueno. The final one that I have on here is The Silent Patient, which is sort of a psychological thriller. I don't read too many psychological thrillers. I usually find them boring. But this one did okay. Obviously, it kept my interest enough to keep going. It's by Alex Michaelides. Why do I even try to pronounce authors' names? I gave it 3 stars because it was enough to keep my attention, but at the same time, I didn't love it. It was a little bit more, it felt a little bit more like fast moving, like even though not a lot was moving in the plot, like the writing or something it was fast moving enough where I wasn't bored like I usually get in psychological thrillers. But then again, there was a giant twist that you knew was coming because the book broadcast it so hard. Like several times during the book, it just like straight up told you, but things were not as they seemed. And I was like, gee, I wonder if there's gonna be a twist at the end. A lot of people, I was looking at the Goodreads reviews, and a lot of people who read more thrillers than I do, which isn't hard, were saying that this twist has definitely been used and possibly overused. So if you are familiar with thrillers, you might want to give this one a miss because it's not really doing anything hugely original. This is the second book, I just realized. I read The Winter Witch and then The Silent Patient. They're both about women who stop speaking. I don't know if that was unintentional theme for my month. The Silent Patient is about a doctor, psychologist, who goes to a small asylum seeking to treat this woman who murdered her husband and then hasn't said anything since. And it's just kind of him trying to figure out what happened, why she's not speaking, and her coming to terms with what happened. And I can't say more than that, except for there's a huge twist at the end, which did feel like a little bit of a narrative cheat to me. The way it was done, it felt like cheating. But whatever, I'm not a fan of psychological thrillers, so maybe that's a normal thing. And finally, not on my list yet, because I haven't even bothered to mark it down as DNF'd, but another book that I just grabbed off of the Overdrive app was called The Good Sister. I think it kept appearing on the front page, and I was like, okay, fine, I'll look at you. But I wasn't into it. It's a contemporary thriller with cops and like a lawyer, and I'm just not into those at all. So those were all of my reads in April, and if I finish up any like last minute, I'll try to include them next month. I'm recording this on the 26th because that's when I have time, and it is possible that I'll finish like one more book before the end of the month, but I'll try to include it next month. Anyway, what did you think? Have you read any of these books? Probably not. Super random month. So random. A completely Overdrive app-driven reading this month. I have been super, super busy, and so basically it just comes down to being like, I need something new to listen to. Click, okay, this looks interesting. Download. Hey guys, I forgot to mention, this came in the mail. To Be or Not to Be, a choose-your-own-adventure of Hamlet, where you can play as Ophelia or Hamlet Sr., who is dead. So, I am so excited to check this out, and if you are as excited as I am, I will be doing a read-along of at least one of the paths, or maybe multiple if they're short, over on Patreon. So go check that out if you are interested. For as little as $1 a month, you can have access to content like that. So there you go. Jane and I finishing off. Oh, you guys can probably say my ending spiel by now. Go ahead. I'll let you do it. Good, good. Don't forget to mention to people that they can find more stuff like this, exactly like this, here on this channel. They look around. Good. You remembered to mention that I do have a Patreon where they can support me. Don't want to forget that. And you remember that they can find all the links to my social media in the doobly-doo. Wow, you are good at this. Anyway, thanks guys for filling in for me. I'll see you all again next time with whatever it is I happen to be doing next time. Bye! Well, look at that. It's shout-out time again. We're here to shout out this month's patrons with Lennox, Amanda, Ashley, Celia, Jenny, Kim, Lisa, Lumore, Sabby Panda, and Sarah. And if you want to be great like these awesome people, then you can become my patron over on Patreon.